Dobrý den, vítejte u dalšího videa. Hello, welcome to another video where I will talk about na as a verb prefix. I would love to tell you that na has only one function or two functions when we add it to the verb, but there is no such a thing in the Czech language. There are a couple of more than just two functions. We will see that in a little bit. Since you're watching this video, I can tell that you are brave, that you are curious, and you're here to learn, right? So let's get started. In this video lecture, you are going to learn what this sentence from the Hobbit movie means.
Dejte mu políka.
Ne, to nebude nutné. Děkuji, budu vám stačit pěšky. Už jsem se na výletech něco nachodil.
Or even this adjective, nakažení.
Ne, tohle ne, je nakažený.
Cože?
Ano, má červy. Střevek.
Before I get into analyzing all the categories, I would like to tell you how I prepare for these videos. I usually walk or sit down and think about certain sentences or verbs that contain this prefix. And then I go on the internet and look for more phrases, look for supporting material and find out there is not much. So I analyze the Czech language from different sources and then separate it into categories. This is how I prepare for the prepositions as well. And then you will notice that those categories might not work 100%. You might find an example that would maybe belong to two categories. So I'm not suggesting to memorize those categories as I put them here, but I would hope that it's something that you would use as a guideline, something that would help you understand how this prefix in particular works. Prefixes are complex, just like prepositions. I would dare to say even more complex because we have more combinations with certain verbs and sometimes there are just slight nuances in meaning. I always try to give you limited amount of examples while giving you an overview how the prefix works, and then I always realize the video is very long. So this time I summarized it a little bit more. I'll give you a smaller amount of examples, enough examples to give you an idea. But if you're eager to learn more and see more examples, you can check my worksheet that goes along with this lecture. And one more thing before I start. If grammar is not your thing or you're a beginner, when you watch this video, you can only focus on a couple of phrases that you really like. You can just write them down, memorize them. 5 of them, for example. 5 is enough. Pick your 5 favorite phrases. You can share them in the comments below. And you can leave the rest. It will come to you anyways, with time. And if even then you realize that this video is just a little too advanced, then I invite you to check my beginners playlist, Czech for beginners, or any other playlist that I have here on YouTube. Or you can also study vocabulary with my video course on Udemy, which is called Čeština na gauči. It also goes along with a textbook. It's actually on discount starting today until Tuesday. So you can check the link here or below the video. A teď konečně začínáme. Finally starting. In the previous video when I talked about the prefix u, I mentioned that it's one of those prefixes that makes the verb perfective without changing its meaning. It just talks about something completed. And now was the other of the 4 prefixes. Remember, it was o, na, s, and z. Let's start with the first category, completed action. When we add na to a verb, we often talk about a completed action. For example, napsat, to write, to end up writing. You can see that there is a slight change in orthography because when we have psát, to write, as an imperfective, to be writing, we have an accent, psát. But then we lose it. We don't say napsat, we say napsat. For example, somebody is talking about this great place they went to and they mentioned the name and you're like, I'm not gonna remember that, will you write that for me? You're gonna say, napíšeš mi to, will you write that for me? You're not gonna say, píšeš mi to, because I would be commenting, are you writing that for me? Naplánovat. The imperfective is plánovat, to be planning, to be making plans. Naplánovat is to make those plans. Naplánovali jsme dovolenou na příští rok. We planned our vacation for next year. Namalovat is to paint something. Tento obraz namaloval francouzský malíř. This painting has been painted by a French painter. Know that paint doesn't only mean artistic painting, but also painting walls, for example. Namalovat stěnu na bílo, to paint the wall white. A namalovat se is to paint yourself or put makeup. Namalovala jsem se. I've put on makeup. Nakrájet. Krájet is to chop or slice. Krájet zeleninu, to chop vegetables. Nakrájíš prosím tě cibuli. Will you cut some onion, please? Nahrát. You see, hrát, to play. And nahrát means to record on a tape. And it can be audio or video. Nahrála jsem to na telefon. I recorded that on the phone. And the second meaning, nahrát, is also to pass the ball. If you're playing football with somebody, you can shout at them, nahraj, pass the ball. Naučit, it comes from učit. Učit is to teach. Dneska vás naučím všechno o předponě na. Today I'm going to teach you everything about the prefix na. Musím se naučit minulý čas. I have to learn past tense because I have a test. So I have to learn it and understand it. And the last verb is narodit se, to be born. And that one has to come with se. The base form rodit means to give birth. Narodit se is be born. Kdy ses narodil? When were you born? And from that, of course, we have narozeniny, birthday. Moment, já se teď napiju. Dobrý, můžeme pokračovat. Okay, we can continue. Já se teď napiju. I'm gonna drink now. In my last video, I talked about upít, which meant to drink a little, like have a little sip. Napít se, to drink. Completed action. It doesn't specify the quantity, but we suppose is to drink enough. Or another example, you hear somebody coughing. You would naturally want to ask, do you want to have a drink? Chceš se napít? Chceš se napít vody? Do you want to drink some water? So, se. These verbs have to be reflexive and they are connected with drinks and food. Najíst se is the same example. Prosím tě, pojď si sednout a najez se. Come on, sit down and eat. When you hear a sentence like this, it means that you are going to have a meal. You're probably gonna finish it. You're not just gonna have one bite. Najedli jsme se a šli jsme ven. We ate and we went out. The second category talks about getting on a surface, like getting on board of a plane, train, bus, or putting something on a surface, like serving food. Nastoupit is to get on board. Nastoupit do vlaku. Nastoupit do letadla. Nastoupit do autobusu. Here's something interesting. These both have na prefix, but nastoupit is perfective and nastupovat is imperfective. You would use this imperfective verb if you want to talk about something in present, simple or continuous. For example, you're on a phone talking to a friend and then you want to tell them, I'm gonna get on, so I want to hang up. Za chvíli budu nastupovat. I'm gonna be getting on. So this is not a finished action actually. It's just implying that I'm gonna be getting on board. And nastoupit is perfective. It's a completed action. So I will get on board and then I would send a message. Už jsem nastoupila do vlaku. I've already got on the train. And from that you probably know the word nástup. Výstup a nástup. And the Prague metro again. Nástup is the getting on. Has the same prefix, na, but with the accent with čárka. Nástup. And nasednout also means to get on, but we are implying that we're gonna sit also. From sedět. Sedět is to sit. Nasednout is to get on a vehicle and sit. So I could say, nasedla jsem do vlaku a jela jsem na výlet. I got on a train, I sat on a train, and then I went for a trip. But it can also be nasednout na kolo, because bicycle has a seat. To get on a bike. Nasednout na koně, on a horse. Nasednout do auta as well. We could say these two are almost synonyms, except you cannot say nastoupit na kolo, because kolo doesn't have a platform, so you cannot get on board. Nandat, this is an interesting one. You might know dát, to give or put, the imperfective version, and the perfective nandat is to serve, like to put on. For example, your babička, your grandma, is asking if you're gonna eat, if she should serve you food already. Mám ti už nandat? Mám ti už nandat oběd? Should I serve you lunch already? So nandat is to serve food. It's a little informal, but it's very useful. Namazat, to spread butter or any kind of spread on bread, for example. And also to put cream. Namazat krémem. On a hot summer day, I might say, než půjdu ven, tak se namažu opalovacím krémem. Before I go out, I'm gonna apply sun cream. Nainstalovat is to install a program, but it's also to install an actual object. Nainstalovat televizi na zeď, to install TV in the wall. And after you've had your lunch at grandma, your grandma is gonna ask you, pomůžeš mi nainstalovat WhatsApp? Will you help me install WhatsApp on my phone? These would go with an object. So nandat něco, to serve something. Namazat něco. Nainstalovat něco. And yes, you guessed, that would be the accusative. Ready to go to the next category? Jdeme na to. Third category. Achieve a satisfactory result. Co to je? This is an interesting category, but it's also important. Nachodit. Chodit means to walk regularly. Nachodit means that you've walked enough. Nowadays it's very modern to have these pedometers to count your step, and some people want to get 10,000 and more. They would check their app and they would say, dneska jsem nachodila 15,000 kroků. Today I've walked 15,000 steps. Okay, that's good, I'm happy. So that's the satisfactory result. We talk about an action that takes some time, it might be repeated several times until we reach this desired result. And be careful, here we cannot say najít, because najít is a completely different one, different meaning. Ne. We will see that at the end of the video. The same way would be najet and najezdit. Jet and jezdit are verbs related to movement in a vehicle, to drive, to ride. We want to reach a satisfactory result by driving a car, for example. Would you like your bus driver to have driven maybe just 50 kilometers in his whole life? Tenhle řidič má najety tisíce kilometrů. This driver has driven thousands of kilometers. He's an expert. I use the participle from this verb najeto, which works as an adjective, but I could say the same with the verb. Tenhle řidič najel tisíce kilometrů. He has driven thousands of kilometers. Or I could also say najezdil if I want to emphasize that he has done this repeatedly. You could say, if you want to practice a certain route, you could say potřebuju si to najezdit. I need to drive this enough time so that I learn this route and I don't need to rely on a navigation, for example. Nasněžit. Sněžit is to snow, and nasněžit is how much snow has fallen. Na horách nasněžilo 30 centimetrů. It snowed 30 centimeters in the mountains. Well, we could say that this is more like a completed action, but it's also considered a result that is satisfactory. Našetřit. Šetřit means to save money or energy. But here, when we speak about našetřit, we usually refer to money. You've saved money for a certain means, for buying something. For this category, we could apply this picture. Imagine you have a container, something, and you want to reach a certain level. You want it to be this full. So then you add something, you add more and another, until you reach this level and it's a satisfactory result for you. You could think of this line as, 10,000 crowns. Našetřil si na telefon. He saved enough money for a phone. Našetřil si 10,000 korun. He saved up. Nabít is to charge battery, for instance, but also to load a gun. Potřebuju si nabít notebook. I need to charge my laptop. That means I want to charge it until full, probably. Until I am satisfied with the amount of power that my battery has. Number 4. Completed action again. Yes, but this one is talking about a large amount and sometimes too large amount. Nachodit se, to walk a lot, to walk enough. Sometimes too much. Now let's go back to that scene from The Hobbit.
Děkuji, budu vám stačit pěšky. Už jsem se na výletech něco nachodil.
Já už jsem se něco nachodil wants to say I've walked enough, I walked so much that I am an expert. Some of these examples from this category could actually be connected with the previous category. But nachodit is not the same as nachodit se. Nachodit se talks about this large amount of kilometers that you've walked that makes you a very good walker. Like Bilbo wanted to say, I am a really good walker. I've walked a lot. I'm probably gonna be fast enough to keep up with you on horses. And when you say nachodit se, you don't say the amount. Já už jsem se něco nachodila. I've walked a lot. Navařit is to cook a large amount. For example, when you're doing a meal prep for the whole week. Navařili jsme na celý týden. We've cooked for the whole week. Naslibovat. Slibovat is to promise, and naslibovat is to promise a lot. And usually too many promises that you can keep. Politici toho vždycky naslibujou. The politicians always promise so much, too much. And načekat se is also related to too much, to wait for too long. You would not use this verb so much as in that somebody waited too long at one moment, but different moments all together. For example, when I was at high school, I used to wait for my dad until he finishes work and takes me home because we lived in another village. So I would go to this waiting room near his office and then I would wait for him many times. So I could say, tady jsem se hodně načekala. Here I waited a lot, but not only on one occasion, but many occasions. This category talks about quite an opposite action. How crazy is this prefix, right? So we start a process, only a small amount of it, and we don't finish it, we don't bring it to the end. Let me give you an example. Nalomit, to crack or to break partly. For example, I have this wooden fork, dřevěná vidlička. For some reason, I want to start cracking on one of these teeth or whatever they're called. I would do this. Nalomila jsem to. I cracked it a little. I broke it partly, but it's still there, right? It's still attached to it. Nalomila jsem to. Tahle vidlička je nalomená. It is cracked. Now, if I do this, ulomila jsem to. I broke it completely, just like in the last video. Ulomit is to break, completely break off. Oops, ulomilo se to. It broke off. By the way, we have this interesting adjective, nalomený. This also means it's cracked or something is partly broken, but also it means that somebody is partly convinced. So imagine you wanna convince somebody, so you are swaying them to one side, to your side. So this person is being swayed to one side, they're being cracked. Už je nalomený. He's partly convinced. Nakousat. Kousat also means to bite, to be biting. Nakousat is to just bite a little bit. We can also say nakousnout. For example, Anička nakousala svačinu a nedojedla ji. Anička chewed on her snack, just took a few bites but didn't finish it. This category is some kind of a mixture where we just have unclear definition, or it can have a metaphoric meaning. For example, this verb najít that I mentioned before. Najít means to find. Well, we could think of it this way. Jít is to go. So you go somewhere and go around until you find something. Hard to say why, but najít is to find. Kde je ten kousek, co jsem ulomila? Where's that piece that I broke off? Našla jsem to. Found it. Nachytat is to fall for the trick, to take the bait. Nachytala jsem vás. You fell for it. I was the one that made you fall for it. Nechali jste se nachytat. You let yourself to be fooled. Chytat means to catch, so you took the bait. Nakazit is to infect somebody. Nakazit se is to get infected. Děti se ve školce nakazily. The children got infected at kindergarten. And the scene from The Hobbit contained the adjective nakažený, which means infected.
Ne, tohle ne, je nakažený.
Cože?
Nadávat na followed by an accusative is to complain about something. Nadávat na vládu. To complain about the government. Nadávat někomu. Dative is to call somebody names. Nadávat vládě, to call the government names. It's important to mention that nadávat is actually imperfective. Pan Souček nadává sousedovi. Mr. Souček is calling his neighbor names. A naštvat, to make somebody angry, comes from štvát. Štvát is to chase or irritate. And this is to completely make somebody angry. A soused se na pana Součka naštval. And the neighbor got angry with Mr. Souček. And let's wrap it up with the last category, very brief category. I want you to be aware of the prefix na, which is nowadays not a verb prefix. You would find it in adjectives and nouns, etc., but not verbs. But it used to be a verbal prefix. And I'm going to give you one example. Následovat. Sledovat is to follow or to watch somebody or something. Následovat also means to follow. Somebody can say, následujte mě, follow me. That's a very formal Czech. But it can also mean come after when I'm giving a list, for example. Jaký den následuje po pondělí? Which day comes after Monday? Úterý. A to je všechno. See, I wanted it to be brief and it's just not possible. Remember, there is also a worksheet that you can download and have even more examples. And if you practice exercises, I hope that you enjoyed learning from the prefix na. And don't worry if it was too overwhelming. Imagine that each of this category was a room in a castle and I'm your tour guide. So I'm guiding you through all these rooms, and each room has so many things, some things that you might not like and some things that are worth remembering. So it's up to you what you're going to remember from each room, from each category. To je ode mě všechno. This is all from me. Mějte se hezky a uvidíme se za týden.